3 Lives 3 Worlds. The Pillow Book. Lower volume. Original work by Tanki Gongzi. English translation, Hamster 428. English editing, Rock Harlequin, Lily, Joanna Kuang. Part 5 Mistaking Destiny. Chapter 19. King Kaihu's Bingkang ceremony certainly left a big impact. After being lucky enough to attend the ceremony, Cheng Yu Yuanjun went back to Zhukongtian and set up a storytelling stall on the 33rd heaven. Her gossip sessions always sold out through half a month of relating details from the Bingkang ceremony. Needless to say, it was a smash hit among the immortals. The fairy's favorite part was where His Majesty the King struck away the iron sword from Nichuian's hand in only one move. Legend had it Nichuian was bullying Fengzhu, the young queen of King Kaihu, at the sword competition. His Majesty the King came on stage and made an appearance for the young queen. Unable to stand Nichuian's rambling, he drew his sword from its scabbard after according him 3 courteous strokes and overpowered his iron blade in just one move. The second the iron sword landed on the ground, Dai Jun blitzed the Kanghe straight ahead. In the twinkling of an eye, he had simply split the heavy iron blade into halves as though he was slicing a bamboo shoot. A hilt swung the 2 blades and spun them in the air. Dai Jun's Kanghe sword precisely stopped at Nichuian's chest. One single stroke had unexpectedly shown a sublime swordsmanship that was constantly changing no matter the strength of its moves. It was said that the lucky fairies in attendance were all stunned at the time. On one hand, they were spellbound by Dai Jun's solemn grace. On the other hand, they were feeling rather inadequate compared to the ancient gods. In recent years, their magic hadn't excelled anywhere. Fortunately, the demon clan's sorcery hadn't seemed to develop that much either. At least they could find a little comfort in this. Losing badly, Nichuian left King Kaihu in a panic, too humiliated to go on any further about the clan's swordsmanships. The young queen of King Kaihu could finally seal away her sword and complete the ceremony. The storytelling business was booming on the 33rd sky. Through the reverence the immortal held for Dai Jun, Cheng Yu Yuanjun was able to rake it in. His young highness, the little doe, received a few gold ingots as payment after helping her collect tea money for several days. Cheng Yu Yuanjun was in a splendid mood. The little doe was also in a very good mood as he bit into his gold. But for each happy person there existed a sad one. The Bingkang ceremony had thoroughly broken many people's hearts, including a string of high-ranking goddesses and fairies on heaven. In the past, the fairies didn't dare to harbor any feelings for Dai Jun. Because His Majesty was made of legends, they never thought he might one day marry a queen consort. Or they may have thought that even if Dai Jun wanted to marry a queen, it could only be one of them, thus they rarely had any inappropriate ideas toward him. After the Bingkang ceremony, Princess Zhihe in a stricken frenzy came running to Taichan Palace. When Zonglin Xianguan saw her haggard face, he didn't have the heart to drive her away. Thinking that Dai Jun wasn't there anyway, and letting her stay a few days would be kindness, he prepared a room for her to stay in. Princess Zhihe drank away her sorrow as she waited for Dai Jun to return. Whenever she ran into someone, she would grab him and ask how exactly Fengzhu of King Kaihu was better than her. On the 3rd day, she incidentally caught Zonglin Xianguan passing by. Being an absolutely honest man, he looked at Zhihe's puffy eyes for a moment before offering, "Dai Jun likes a beautiful woman who can cook, who excels as sword fighting, and who knows how to fight. Princess, you can't do any of these things. Besides, Zonglin Xianguan was utterly sincere, although you are considered beautiful, compared to Her Highness Fengzhu, you're actually a little ugly. It was said Princess Zhihe coughed up blood on the spot, gave 3 long laughs, plunged headlong into the carriage Zonglin Xianguan had pulled over, and, without turning back, left Zhukongtian to return to the mountain she was banished to. New Year celebration on Zhukongtian was quite festive. However, because the rumor mill in Qingkaiyu had never been as vigorous as in Zhukongtian, the season came fairly peacefully. Only Fengzhu's good classmate, Grey Wolf Didi, was slightly distressed. Classes remained open at the clan's academy, and Fengzhu had been leaving behind a ton of homework. Grey Wolf Didi had been generously helping her take notes. Thinking she would be returning to Qingkaiyu for the Bingkang ceremony, Grey Wolf Didi was thrilled that his burden would finally lift. He came to the Fox Cave to look around when he heard Donghua Daijun and Bai Ji Daijun standing inside chatting after the ceremony had been concluded. Then after a cup of tea, Fengzhu was taken away. Grey Wolf Didi carried away the heavy notebooks he had brought for Fengzhu as he sighed in resignation. But on second thought, these heavy notebooks could actually be gifted to Fengzhu as wedding presents. This way, he wouldn't have to gift the couple any congratulatory money. He was suddenly happy again. Hai Dietijian had been hanging around Qingkaiyu for the past several days ever since he watched his share of the hubbub during the Bingkang ceremony. Extremely curious about whatever Donghua and Bai Ji had to say between each other, he obliquely poked in from time to time. That day, Bai Ji Daijun summoned Bai Yi and his wife to the Fox Cave for a talk. Jian knew the talk must be about their domestic affair, and the domestic affair must also have something to do with Fengzhu. If it had something to do with Fengzhu, then it naturally had something to do with Donghua. He plastered himself onto a chair in Bai Ji's home without moving so much as an inch. Bai Ji Daijun had to admire Jian's resilient willpower and in the end relented in letting him listen. According to Bai Ji's words, he and Donghua did come to a quiet place that day to talk about an important matter. Even though Daijun was standing there simple as usual, his posture was full of regal supremacy. And yet in a humble demeanor, he had professed he had fallen in love with his granddaughter, Fengzhu, at first sight, and would like to have her hand in marriage as his queen. He had originally planned to propose, become engaged, and then wed according to the rules. But because the two had recently fallen into a dreamverse, due to various mishaps, he simply married her in order to streamline things. He felt very sorry toward her and also very apologetic to the elders of Qingkaiyu. Daijun then said there was another thing that had always bothered him. He originally planned on coming to trouble Qingkaiyu's hospitality once they left the Dreamverse, but he discovered that Qingkaiyu was extremely strict in their selecting of son-in-laws. One would need to come from an established family and wield some sort of power. He feared he couldn't do anything about his background, but he could have a little discussion with Tianjun as far as power went. He also said because Xiao Bai was afraid a son-in-law like him would not be to the liking of the elders, she had been under a lot of apprehension. He didn't think it would be good for him to rush the visit. But now that the entire world knew he was Qingkaiyu's son-in-law, even if he wasn't liked by everyone, he could only ask them to look past his flaws and accept him. Lastly, Daijun said Xiao Bai actually enjoyed festivities. If King Kaihu would agree to give her hand to him, they should also hold a reception party and invite the immortals to come. He asked to have King Kaihu and Taichan Palace's help in order to prepare the wedding banquet together. Zonglin would be taking care of things on Taichan Palace's side. As for King Kaihu, he felt Xiao Bai's mother would be a very good candidate. The wedding was set for half a month later. The location was to be at the Holy Blue Sea. Because he had gone to Nuwa's place after they left the Dreamverse to have him and Xiao Bai entered into the marriage registry, they no longer needed to conduct the nuptial rites. He asked that Xiao Bai's mother be troubled with the wedding preparation since Xiao Bai was exhausted from her recent efforts in the Bingkeng ceremony. He would take her first to the Blue Sea for a recuperation getaway. After Bai Ji Daijun listened to this speech, he pondered for a long time before finally figuring out Xiao Bai was his granddaughter. Bai Ji Daijun was very upset, believing his only granddaughter had been stolen by Dong Hua, and had wanted to oppose. And yet, Bai Ji and Dong Hua had known each other for tens of thousands of years. Dong Hua's speech today was longer than everything he had said in all those years combined. Momentarily stunned, Bai Ji Daijun missed his opportunity to voice his opposition. By the time he recovered, Daijun had taken Fengju away from Qingyu. Jian had long known of Fengju's infatuation for Dong Hua. When he heard that Dong Hua and Fengju had been entered into Nuwa's marriage registry, he calmed down a bit. Since Fengju could be regarded as his niece, it meant that Dong Hua would be his nephew-in-law. He'd never be able to defeat Dong Hua in magic, but he was the superior one in seniority at this time. It pleased Jian so. Fengju's mother was also extremely pleased, but not because of the seniority she gained. Fengju's mother wasn't any different from her. She grew up listening to Daijun's legends since she was young, her heart filled with pious reverence. Never in a million years did she think that she'd become Daijun's mother-in-law one day. When they first arrived at her father-in-law's and heard that Daijun had personally said she would be the perfect choice as the wedding planner, Fengju's mother, who had never planned a wedding, suddenly felt very excited. She inwardly resolved to plan the wedding so well that she wouldn't disappoint Daijun's trust. However, elderly Fairy Fumi, Fengju's grandmother from thousands of miles away, was a bit more clear-eyed. It was said she was awed by Daijun's swordsmanship ever since that day. All day long she would lean on her forehead and sigh, "Tell me something, Ju didn't look for a husband, so she didn't find anyone. But once she looked, she found such a formidable man. How will she have the upper hand over a husband like him from now on?" Even if she swallowed her grief and came home crying, how could her family even back her up at that point? I had wanted to find her a comparable or slightly inferior household so that even in the event she suffered at her husband's family, Ju could still have her grandfather's backing. Now, if she's marrying into Dong Hua Daijun's household, where is she going to turn to when she's being mistreated? Elderly Fairy Fumi's eldest daughter-in-law filially waited by her knees and comforted her by saying, without mentioning the lass's natural beauty, "Just her sweet little mouth is enough to make others happy. Hasn't she always charmed you? Moreover, a married couple doesn't necessarily fight all the time. The lass is still so young. After the wedding, I'm sure His Majesty will spoil her even more." And looking at the big picture, since she has inherited the throne of the Eastland at such a young age, having Daijun's help will lighten her burden. In my opinion, this is actually a very advantageous marriage. Elderly fairy Fumi listened to her eldest daughter-in-law. Persuaded by her insights, half of her worries finally lessened. After handing the wedding to Bai Yi and his wife, Bai Ji Daijun coolly went traveling with his wife with no guilt in the least in leaving behind his son and daughter to house sit the fox cave. Luckily, Zonglin Xianguan of Taichan Palace took care of everything inside and out. On the same day, a lengthy group of elderly fairies had arrived in King Kaihu to aid Fengju's mother. Wedding news gradually spread. On the third day, invitations made from carved jade were sent out to the various realms. Occasionally, the immortals could be heard to say that a feast hosted by Daijun was indeed extraordinary. Even the invitations were engraved on jade. Zonglin Xianguan was very pleased as he inwardly applauded himself for his creativity. Fengju's parents had been in a frenzy for the past few days, but Fengju was thoroughly happy and free at the Holy Blue Sea. When Daijun made an appearance for her that day during the Bingkang ceremony, her first reaction had been to scan the audience sitting below. Her face was King Kai's face. No matter what, she had to remain calm. And so she did. In reality, however, a boom had gone off in her head, as if she was facing an exploding minefield. In such times, a girl could be expected to feel moved or bashful. She felt neither. The only thing she could think was, heaven saves her, there goes her secret marriage with Daijun. She had intended to slowly bring the matter to the clan elders. Daijun only came out because Nichuian was being overbearing, but her grandfather might very well turn her out of King Kaihu. She was anxious for an entire morning until Daijun finally stepped out of her grandfather's fox cave. Daijun sincerely told her that her grandfather Bai Ji did not mind their marriage at all. He was nothing but ecstatic, and even offered to host a reception for them. He was happy to take care of the wedding planning, and since he also felt sorry that she had been working so hard these days, he specifically asked him to take her away on a retreat. It turned out her grandfather had cared for her so much. Fengju's heart, which had been hanging uncertainly in the air, suddenly floated back to the ground. She was now relaxed and at ease. By the time they arrived at Donghua's home, the Holy Blue Sea, Fengju had latched onto Daijun's arms as she took in the spectacular landscape. Her eyes twinkled with excitement. Believing she had come here to recuperate on the wish of her grandfather, she felt free as though she had taken the last of her exams. Nothing was on her mind, only fun was in her head. 02. At the tip of the world was the Holy Blue Sea. There, continuous mountain ranges enclosed the holy spring. It was called a holy spring, but it was as large as half of the North Sea. The most wondrous thing about this place was that plants and flowers thrived on the expansive water as they did on land. Birds even resided here. Then deep inside this forest was a majestic stone palace erecting in the middle of the holy water. When Fengju's aunt-in-law said she was a sweet talker, her remarks weren't wrong. The happier Fengju was, the sweeter she became. She was in a good mood today. Additionally, the person she liked most, Daijun, was by her side. She was very happy and pleased, as though nothing in the world could bother her anymore. Because there was now only sweetness in her heart, she felt she was capable of saying all the honeyed words there were. Even though they could ride on clouds into the palace, it would take away from the experience. Daijun took her on a small boat along the flower path to the palace gates. Fengju poked a hand into the water as she cheerfully asked, "Why hadn't you told me before that your home is so beautiful? I think the holy blue sea is much prettier than Zhuangdian. Why aren't you living here?" Daijun pulled her hand in case she fell into the water. Seeing how pleasant her mood was, he softened his voice to answer, "This place is too big. It feels a little empty to be here by myself." Fengju took hold of his hand and brightly said, "We'll have to stay here more from now on. With me by your side, it won't feel empty anymore." She then proceeded to point left and right to the sides of the boat. "Can we really plant whatever we want on the water here?" She excitedly offered her ideas as though she was mistress of the lands. "Hey, how about planting a few pear trees here, some grapefruits there, and some grapes over that way?" She lithely leaned into Daijun, placing her right hand on his. "Have you ever eaten ham hock and snow pears? There's also shrimp with grapes, as well as grouper with grapefruits. These are all my specialties. Let's plant more fruit trees here. Before long, I'll be able to make them every day for you." When she sweet-talked, she could really melt anyone's heart. Daijun watched her with a twinkle in his eyes and smiled, "If that's the case, we already have snow pears, grapes, grapefruits, shrimps, and groupers. But where are we going to find ham hocks?" She smiled mischievously, "We can cut some off from your body." Two little birds flew over their heads. "You have the heart to do that?" "Of course." She nodded in seriousness. Hearing no reply from Daijun, who only knitted his brow, she blanked for a moment, then turned away. On her face was a certain self-control. "Don't furrow your brow. Every time you do that, I feel a bit. Daijun continued to knit his brow in curiosity. "A bit what?" Her cheeks flushed red. She blurted after a period of suppression, "Unable to help myself from wanting to kiss you." Instantly, she saw Daijun leaning in. His voice was low and deep, "You have my permission." She seemed a bit embarrassed. "That's not a very good idea in broad daylight." Daijun goaded her, "Don't worry, there are only the two of us here in the whole blue sea." She pressed her lips together in thought, and then demurely and properly held Daijun's face and gave him a kiss. After retiring to seclusion, Dong Hua seldom came to live at the Blue Sea. The stone palace had been left empty for a very long time. Although he had sent Zonglin to clean the place up a bit, it was still very desolate compared to his permanent residence, Taichan Palace. It being Fengju's first visit, everything she saw was a novelty. Even the desolation of the palace was interesting to her. She pulled Daijun's sleeve, running back and forth as she planned in excitement on how to decorate the palace in the future. Daijun's bedroom was fairly furnished. She was generally pleased. She eagerly thought about where to place the vanity, or where to add an incense table. When Daijun took her to the garden to pick loquats, she felt the plants in the garden were too disorderly. Daijun sat on the stone bench to peel loquats for her. She brought out some paper and ink and thought about how she should rearrange the landscape in the garden. Daijun peeled and pitted the loquats as he fed her. She ate as she pointed her brush to the paper, asking Daijun, "How should we place a rockery here, do you think? Should we place a veranda, then build up a hillside and plant a few decorative maple trees on it? On the hilltop, we can plant you a few of those sandalwood saplings. Let's clear the woods behind the hill. Since you like fulling flowers, we will plant a lot of fullings there. And here, we'll have a porcelain kiln for you, plus an incense workroom. She looked to Donghua with sparkling eyes. Is there anything else you want? Daijun watched her for a long time. Are they all for me? What about you? Fengju drew and drew. She pointed to a corner of her drawing and pressed her lips together to say, I want to have a small lotus pond here. We'll construct a pavilion on the water surface to catch the breeze and stargaze. And here, I want to have a vegetable garden so I can grow some plants to make side dishes. We'll grow my favorite white turnip, and we'll grow your favorite mallow and spinach. Daijun's eyes softened as he thought for a moment before replying, some time ago, Zaiwa Palace sent a chaste berry salad, do you remember? They said it was Yehua who made it himself. It was pretty good. Fengju smugly said, my uncle-in-law's cooking is only so-so, he's not as good as I am. Do you like eating that? We'll just have to grow some chaste berry too, then. As soon as she finished speaking, she added another area onto her drawing. After he finished peeling the loquats, Daijun leaned closer in to study the drawing with her. It can afford to be a bit bigger. What is this? A martial arts stage? We don't need this. Make it all into a vegetable garden. Let's plant the ones that are both pretty and tasty. Is there any vegetable like that? Yes, there's the multicolored chili peppers that are both delicious and pretty. But you eat pretty mild and you don't like spicy food. Let me think, we can grow things like okra, kale, horseradish, or pumpkin. Right, we can also make a gourd arbor. Gourd stir fry is very yummy. She suddenly stopped amid her excitement. Daijun looked up and waved his hand in front of her. What's wrong? Fengju's expression seemed faintly dazed as she stammered, oh, it's just that I suddenly realized we are discussing what kind of veggies we will be planting in our home. It almost feels unreal. Her dreamy eyes came upon Daijun's own deep eyes as he asked her, in our home? Yes, she replied. She looked around them and asked in uncertainty, this is your domain, isn't it? Donghua nodded. She sighed in relief and said, then I didn't say anything wrong. This is our home, isn't it? Even if we only stay here for a short time each year, it's still our home. Ever since Donghua Daijun came into existence from the Blue Sea hundreds of thousands of years ago, he had never had a family. Although he was later adopted by Zhai's parents, they were never that fond of him due to his head of silver hair. But because they pitied his orphanhood, they raised him out of kindness. However, they did not give him much emotional love, so they weren't really his family. The word home was a very strange word to Daijun. Hearing it all of a sudden from Fengju stirred something in his heart. Seeing Daijun in silence for a long time, Fengju thought about what she just said, set her lips into a thin line and grumbled, why are you making that face? I don't think I said anything wrong. Daijun brought a finger up to push her lips into a smile. His countenance revealed a gentleness. I like it that you said our home. Fengju still didn't really get it, but seeing Daijun happy made her happy too. She continued to say ever so sweetly, I like our home too. It's already so pretty, after we spruce it up a little, it will be even prettier. When our family and friends come here to visit, we'll be such proud hosts. Daijun was in agreement. Yes, other people fill their gardens with flowers. We fill ours with vegetables. Of course we'll be such proud hosts. Recognizing the sarcasm in his voice, Fengju pursed her lips. Then who was it that happily suggested scrapping the martial arts stage and converging everything into a vegetable garden? Hearing Daijun's soft wordless chuckles, she amped up the saccharin level. See? You also feel that it's better to make it all into a veggie garden, don't you? After our wedding in a few days, I'll start to take care of them. But since King Kaiyu is very prudent, we don't have a lot of servants. We can only allocate a few workers from Taichan Palace. After some thought, she deflated. Even though I'm the ruler of the Eastland in name, everything is taken care of by my parents, so I'm not that busy. Even so, I still need to go back to school. I can't keep staying here. She glanced at Daijun. I know you have a lot of time, but if I'm not here, it's pointless for you to be here alone. We should send a few caretakers from Taichan Palace to tend to the vegetable garden. Daijun seemed to think what she said made great sense. He helped her with some ideas. If there's nothing urgent at Taichan Palace, I'll have Zonglin come here to take care of the garden. Fengju was surprised. But doesn't Zonglin have to take care of you? Daijun raised his brow. Why should he follow me when I come to King Kaiyu to be with you? Are you saying you can't take care of me? Fengju gave some thought, caressed Daijun's face, gave him a flirtatious look, then crinkled her eyes and said, You're right. How can Zonglin love you as much as I do? After teasing him, she felt amused herself. She suddenly saw a flash in Daijun's dark eyes as he pulled her hand over to his lips and placed a kiss onto it. He hugged her close, rested his head on her shoulder, and said almost with a sigh, Yes, you love me best. Fengju recalled that this childish line was her cousin's favorite thing to say. If his parents did something to make him happy, the little doe would probably widen his watery eyes and say in the softest baby voice, Dad, you love me best? Or, Mom, you love me best. He was so pitiful and lovable at the same time. When Daijun said these words, his voice was low and his familiar breath seemed to envelope all around her. He had so many looks, the quiet look, the solemn look, the indifferent look, the languid look, even the rogue look, as well as this rather surprisingly coquettish look. She loved them all so much that she didn't know what to do. Because they had peeled so many loquats, his words seemed to have contained a wafting scent of the fruit. She couldn't help hugging him more tightly. Of course I love you best, she softly whispered back. Following the Bingkang ceremony, Dong Hua wanted the wedding to take place in a fortnight at the Holy Blue Sea. By Zonglin Xiongwen's estimation, it would be the 4th of March. After distributing the invitations, Zonglin Xianguan sent a fairy crane to ask for Daijun's instruction. Essentially, he said it was a good decision for Daijun to choose the Blue Sea. Among the 8 directions in the sky and the 8 land masses on the ground, the Holy Blue Sea was where strongest divine energy gathered. The landscape there would be so paradisaical, the guests would forget all their troubles in their delight. Though the profuse fairy energy of the stone palace may overwhelm the felicity, in Zonglin's opinion, everything would be all right if they were to hang a few red lanterns and streamers. Additionally, Fengju's mother also suggested holding the reception a bit early so that their guests would be more comfortable. They had discussed whether to come several days in advance to prepare. Coincidentally, High Deity Bai Qian had sent some new theater pieces from Chengtian Terrace. They were all Her Highness Fengju's favorites. At that time, Daijun should bring Her Highness back to heaven to rest. What were Daijun's thoughts on this? His words were very judicious. Things were also taken care of very satisfactorily. The fairies on heaven who previously questioned how Zonglin Xianguan could hold the steward position in Taichan Palace for tens of thousands of years despite his young age could now see it was for a reason. Zonglin's suggestions were to Daijun's liking. When he received the letter, he began to estimate how many more days they would continue to stay at the Blue Sea if they were to proceed according to Zonglin's plan. It turned out to be only 10 more days. At the time, Daijun had felt 10 days were far too short. But by the time he spent those 10 days, he realized they were even shorter than he had thought. At first, because he thought Fengju had been toiling in recent days, in the morning Daijun regularly took her sightseeing, then at night let her rest early. As for him, he stayed and did some reading next to her to court sleepiness. However, Fengju was only a young girl after all. 2 days of rest were all she needed to gain back her energy. Before going to sleep the night before, she heard from Daijun that there were Luan birds living on the fairy mountain nearby. Early next day, she excitedly pulled Daijun along here and there to catch Luan birds. Once she caught them, she played with them for half a day before releasing them back to their nests. Then, remembering the conversation they had on the boat the other day that they would be planting fruit trees, she picked a sundry of fruits on the mountain and followed Daijun around, asking him to teach her how to plant them. Daijun took her diving to the bottom of the spring to plant them. After coming back up, he asked her with a faraway look, "Are you feeling better now?" Fengju had been running around everywhere. Thinking the nice wind on the mountain they visited in the morning would be great for flying kites tomorrow, she pleasantly told him, "I'm all better." Afraid Daijun wouldn't agree to let her fly kites, she hastily added, "I'm so better that I can't get any better." With the same faraway look, Daijun merely throated a reply. When it was time to get out of bed the next day, Fengju couldn't get up. The day following the next day, Fengju still tragically couldn't get up. Fortunately enough, her ability to recover didn't fail her. No matter how torturous something was, all she needed was a good night of sleep and she'd be fine again. Besides, it wasn't that she didn't like this endeavor. Daijun's appetite for exploration was just a tad too much, wearing her out a little bit. Apart from this, she didn't mind it at all. Having fun was Fengju's natural talent. When she thought of the many serious things that still needed to be taken care of after the wedding, and that there weren't many carefree days left, she spent all the time she hadn't spent on sleeping to come up with ways to have fun. Daijun accompanied her, doing all sorts of delightful things. Their best accomplishment was that under her instructions, he had succeeded in making his first ever edible sweet and sour fish. 10 days fleetingly passed by. The night before returning to Taichan Palace, Daijun took Fengju to go see the Blue Sea's nightscape. The Blue Sea wasn't most beautiful when warm sunlight shone. Rather, it was on inky nights at the very end of the month. On the last day of each month, the sky and earth would become ominously pitch black after sundown on the hour of the rooster, 5 to 7 p.m. The complete darkness continued all the way until the beginning of the hour of the pig, 11 p.m., when stars began to sprinkle across the black satiny sky above, starting with Venus in the west and followed by a giant silver moon at the end of the sea. The moon should be crescent by the end of the month, but it was round here in the blue sea, and was even shining along with the stars, showcasing the magnificent nightscape. With a lovelorn moon hanging in the sky, a romantic scenery was unfolding on the ground. As soon as the moonlight began to spread, a soft white mist rose from the water and diffused across the clear spring. The flowers and plants poking through the mist also emitted a quiet glow that dotted the scene like a sea of multicolor wishing lanterns. Amid the swaying wind and clouds, sudden piercing crows of loon birds slashed across the sky in the horizon where land and water met. The quiet landscape burst into life. Countless birds flew out from the mountains, their chirps forming a beautiful song. The divine birds with beautiful plumage softly danced to the magical sounds, their grace breathtaking. From the viewing terrace, Fengju stuttered in excitement, "Do these divine birds come here to dance at this time every month?" Dong Hua was sitting on a carpet woven from Kainyuan feathers and leaning against a stone pillar when he replied, "You say it as if they're so free." Fengju at once understood it was Daijun's doing. She ran over and sweetly held onto his arm. Her eyes were still sparkling as she stuttered to him, Can you tell them to come a bit closer and perform the 100 birds saluting the phoenix dance for me?" Dong Hua coolly said, "I'm not going to do it for free." "What are you going to do for me in return?" "Why are you so petty?" muttered Fengju. "I've even taught you how to make sweet and sour fish." Her eyes suddenly glinted. "Then let me dance for you too." Her hands moved from his arm to his shoulder. "Don't underestimate me, I'm pretty good at dancing too. I'm not any worse than your foster sister, Ji He. It's just not proper for me to dance for other people, that's all." She smiled shyly, "I've lived this long but I still haven't seen a 100 birds saluting the phoenix dance that is actually performed by 100 birds. If you tell them to dance for me, I'll dance for you." Looking at her fluttering lashes, Daijun suddenly remembered when Fengju was still his baby fox in the past. She was exactly like this every time she resorted to coquetry. Of course, she didn't have this supple voice in those days, but she still had these very same watery eyes. Whenever she was in a good mood, she would lovingly nudge her head against his hand. In order to wheedle something from him, she even mewled in fake whimpers. Back then, he had had his own way to deal with her. Each time he saw her cry that way, he only felt amused. Things such as "I like teasing people to tears, cry a bit louder" were easy to say. But now, watching her beguiling him this way and yet suddenly having no way to fend her off caught him a little off guard. She had always been polite and proper in front of outsiders, pretending to be dignified and mature. But he knew she was actually quite coquettish. She had kept to all manners of propriety in front of him, be it in Fanyan Valley or Arania's dream. Compared to when she restrained herself in front of him, he much preferred this innocence and sweetness. This was the real her. When Mialuo remarked that there was a sea of feelings in his heart and she wondered who was hidden behind it, he already knew the hidden one was a little red fox. Though it wasn't romantic love at the time, she was already special to him. Under the soft moonlight on the viewing terrace, Fengju became anxious seeing Daijun watch her for a long time without saying anything. "Don't ignore me like that. Isn't it a good deal?" Dong Hua came back from his trance and agreed with her. It is a good deal. He smiled, then why don't you dance for me first? Feng Zhu hesitated a little, let's not have the divine birds wait for me. Let's have them dance first. It's already late. They still have to return and rest after they finish. You're a revered deity, you should know how to sympathize with your subjects. Under the strewing starlight, Dong Hua let her hold his shoulders as he slightly tilted his head and said to her, I'm just preventing someone from going back on her words. Didn't you say you would sincerely make it up to me? Where is your sincerity if you're haggling with me like this? Feng Zhu reluctantly left his side and backed away to the viewing terrace where she cleared her throat and said, since there's no background music, I'll just dance a short one for you, okay? As though he had predicted she would use this loophole as an excuse, Dong Hua slightly waved his sleeve and magically produced a harp. He plucked the strings while faintly smiling at her. Since you're going to dance, you should at least do a full dance. I'll play the background music for you. Feng Zhu covered her mouth in surprise and asked in disbelief, you even know how to play the harp? How come I never knew? I don't play very often, so of course you don't know. He casually looked up at her. Are you thinking that your husband is so talented? Feng Zhu's face immediately burned red. Husband sounds so strange coming from you. Husband is an odd-sounding word to begin with. Daijun is better. Dong Hua paused amid testing the strings. He waved her over, come here. Feng Zhu meekly came over and was about to say, what for, when Daijun had cupped her face and squished it. He gazed down at her in all seriousness. Think carefully. Who am I to you? Her face was losing its shape in his palms. She couldn't help waving the white flag. My husband. Let me go, let me go. Satisfied, Dong Hua let her go and patted her head. Go. He watched her back and sighed, you're the one who said you'll dance for me. You've dawdled all day and there's still no movement. I'm going to die waiting, you know. Feng Zhu rubbed her cheeks and said in grievance, that's because you keep bothering me. The bright moon and stars illuminated the satiny background, their quiet glow shimmering across the blue sea. The divine birds perched quietly on the treetops. Soft music flowed from the harp as the red-robed maiden lithely danced to it. Under the moonlight, her long dark hair seemed to be coated with a layer of light. The sleeves concealing her face slowly moved away, revealing a beautiful face behind them. Her fingers came together to form two hibiscuses. When she raised her hands, her sleeves slid down and showed a pair of ivory arms. Her steps were as soft as ripples on a quiet night, and as exquisite as a blooming flower on the water. Dong Hua missed a note. He had always known her to be beautiful, but never the sophisticated type. Her beauty was principally in her elegant and sunny demeanor. At this time, he discovered that her elegant face could actually be said to be dazzling. Whenever she wanted to please him, her gaze would so naturally become alluring. Of course he knew who had made her look this way. Even she might not know herself how enticing her gentle gaze could be. The chord suddenly came to a halt. Feng Zhu raised her head in confusion. Silence momentarily surrounded the terrace. At long last, she saw Daijun open his arms wide and call out to her in a hoarse voice, "Come over here." The way Daijun was sitting there beckoning her was simply too irresistible. Despite being a little suspicious, Feng Zhu moseyed to him but without forgetting to complain, telling me to go, then telling me to come. Why do you always call me? Can't you come to me? And anyway, you're not allowed to squish my face anymore. Daijun readily agreed, I won't. Are you sure? I'm sure. Daijun really didn't squeeze her cheeks anymore. Instead, he pressed her straight onto the carpet. She let out a cry in surprise. At first, she was still concerned about letting the divine birds perform the 100 birds saluting the phoenix dance for her, thus she struggled away from his hold. But her strength wasn't as great as Daijun's after all. Soon, Daijun was furrowing his brow and even using that low deep voice that she loved so much to coax her. Her head was so dizzy with his bewitching ways that she let him do whatever he pleased. She even cooperated with him a little. It was the next morning by the time Feng Zhu woke up. The sun had risen high above the mountains. Of course, last night's silver moon had taken its rest, and the divine birds had also returned to the forest. If she wanted to see them dance, she would have to wait till the end of next month. Feng Zhu chewed on her fingers underneath her quilt and wanted to wail. What a crying shame it had all been. By Feng Zhu, what an idiot you are. How could you have listened to Daijun's words? How could you have believed his nonsense? You really are an idiot. When it came time to leave the Blue Sea, Zonglin and Feng Zhu's mother still hadn't arrived. Because she didn't get her wish last night, Feng Zhu seemed a bit jaded as she glumly followed Daijun back to Taichan Palace. When they arrived at the palace, Feng Zhu was still without her usual spirits. Even when her aunt Bai Qian invited her to come see a play, she also politely turned her down. Only until Daijun promised to bring her back to the Blue Sea next month and order the divine birds to dance for her did she finally gain some spirits. But her disposition was still not completely there. Before, she simply ignored everyone. Now, she was merely unresponsive. Daijun watched her for a long while before voluntarily bringing out some paper and ink to write a pact with her. He wrote in black and white what would happen to him if he didn't do as had previously promised. Then, he even pressed his fingerprint onto the parchment before neatly folding it up and handing it to Feng Zhu. Her spirits finally improved and she was able to even grin at him. The Holy Blue Sea was doubtlessly going to be boisterous in the upcoming days. Zonglin had suggested that the Dongfeng couple return to Taichan Palace because he knew Daijun much preferred his peace and quiet in recent times. Although Taichan Palace wasn't exactly isolated from the rest of the world, everyone knew of and would sympathize with his busy preparations for the wedding. No one would be coming to the 13th sky to bother him. In all fairness, Zonglin had been very thorough in his thinking. But the world is always full of exceptions and unpredictability. They are hidden from the very beginning, waiting to erupt. On the second night in heaven, Taichan Palace welcomed a dear friend. This dear friend scaled the wall to come inside, broke into Dong Hua's bedchamber with uncanny familiarity, lifted open the bed curtains and grabbed onto Dong Hua's untucked arm. "Ice face, take a trip with me." It was a rather emphatic request. Unfortunately, he received a kick as soon as he uttered it. The room was lit by candlelight. Dong Hua sat bedside and completely blocked Feng Zhu from view. She nonetheless voluntarily poked her head out from the quilt and looked over his shoulder, shocked to find their guest sitting on the floor. "Hey? Xiao Yan? Why are you here in the middle of the night? Did you sleepwalk to the wrong place?" In warrior Xiao Yan's disheartened expression was something quite tragic. "Jihan asked me to come see Ice Face. Xiao Yan choked back his tears as he looked to Dong Hua. "She's in serious danger. She would like to see you for one last time." Feng Zhu froze and looked to Dong Hua. Dong Hua frowned. "She's living in Fanyan Valley. Why would she be in danger?" "She begged me to bring her out of Fanyan Valley," said Xiao Yan wretchedly. Dong Hua rose, put on a robe, and poured himself a cup of tea. "Even if she's left Fanyan Valley, she shouldn't be in serious peril." "What did she do?" Yan Chaiwu removed a chain from his neck. Hanging on it was a piece of white crystal. Embedded inside was a small object that seemed to be a claw of some sort, very small and exquisite. Yan Chaiwu said chokingly, "She asked me to give this to you. She said you'll know once you see it." Dai Jun's tea-holding hand paused in the air. He received the pendant and caressed it for a moment before suddenly looking up to Feng Zhu. "Go on ahead to the Blue Sea tomorrow. I'll go to take a look at her, then meet up with you later." Having received this answer from Dai Jun, Yan Chaiwu gave him a deliberate look, then said, "I'll wait for you outside." Feng Zhu was very surprised to hear Jihan was on the verge of dying. Even though she wasn't overly fond of Jihan, she still felt sorry for her. For this reason, she nodded without any hesitation when she heard Dai Jun asking her to come to the banquet ahead of him. She walked over and helped him into his robe. The weak candlelight reflected Dong Hua's departing figure, which somehow seemed vague and hazy. His hazy and distancing silhouette appeared to be foreshadowing something, but Feng Zhu did not pay attention to it at the time. Only, she could not fall asleep again that night. End of chapter 19.